welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I am your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, Mel Kiper just dropped his brand new 2-round mock draft. We'll break down the Texans picks coming up and some more Texans draft visits that have come down the pipeline. I'm going to break down all of the latest Texans draft visits that you need to know about, but I talked about it in my video yesterday. If you are not paying for ESPN Plus, it's $120 a year. Texans Today, it's 100% free. I'm never going to put my stuff behind a paywall for you guys. So if you want Texans content not behind a paywall, well, you know where to go. It's right here at Texans Today. Just go down and hit that subscribe button for the latest going on around your Houston Texans. Like I said, $120 a year. Who's got money like that these days? Who's got money like that? Let's get down into Kiper's mock draft, though. Here are the picks that happened right before the Texans selection at pick 25. Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Gray Zabel, a lot of people like him, the offensive lineman from North Dakota. Michael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. And what do you know? My guy, Donovan Jackson, going one pick before the Houston Texans at pick 24. I told y'all, guys, he's going to be gaining a lot of traction as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. And at pick 25, the Houston Texans selected Josh Connerly Jr., offensive lineman from Oregon. This has been another riser in the NFL draft process, as Connerly Jr., one of the top tackles in this class, was more of a day two guy maybe a couple weeks ago. Now is gaining steam to go end of round one. This is what Kiper had to say on Connerly to the Texans. The pass protection really hurt C.J. Stroud in the Houston offense last season. He was sacked 52 times. The Texans began an overhaul of the offensive line this offseason, including trading away left tackle Laramie Tunsil, the unit's one sure thing. They can't risk wasting another year of Stroud's rookie contract by forcing him to constantly fend for himself against opponent pass rushes. Houston signed Cam Robinson and Trent Brown, but it shouldn't be satisfied. Connerly is consistent, allowing just 2 sacks over his college career. He'd help keep Stroud clean in the pocket. So, with that being said, I want you to go down in the comment section. Get your red pens out. Take your paper, pass it to the left. Go down and grade the pick of Josh Connerly Jr. at pick 25. If this was draft night, if I came up here and said, the selection for your Houston Texans is Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle from Oregon, what grade would you give it? Go down in the comment section and let me know. I'd probably give it a B+. I'm a big Donovan Jackson guy. I think his fit makes the most sense. And, Kiper didn't mention it, but if they did select Josh Connerly Jr., I wouldn't be surprised if they go ahead and play him at left guard and kind of groom him towards the left tackle, because $15 million for Cam Robinson, it's just hard for me to believe that they paid him all that money to be a backup left tackle. That is, not top-end starting money, but that is starting money in the NFL for an offensive lineman. And as I look at the offensive line depth chart for your Houston Texans, like I said, I think it makes more sense to try to build from the interior out, because you have in all circumstances, you have 4 tackles on the depth chart, right? You have Cam Robinson, Trent Brown, Titus Howard as a tackle, Blake Fisher as a tackle. So you have 4 good tackles on this team. I think it needs more help on the interior, though. I think the pick of Josh Connerly would make sense, especially if Donovan Jackson went 1 pick before, even though I would be heartbroken. I would hope the Texans would trade up 1 pick to get Donovan Jackson if that's what it took. But, hey, I could see Donovan Jackson going early on in this draft. Now, coming up in just a moment, the second pick in Mel Kiper's mock draft. He did a 2-rounder. I'll tell you who that second pick for the Houston Texans is, because I honestly think it's an absolute steal considering the Texans pick at 59. I'll tell you who that is in just one moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at GameTime. The official ticketing partner of Texans Today is GameTime, my place to go get last-second tickets, and it should be your place too. Hey, where are my basketball fans at? I know, rough game for the Cougars of U of H this past week, but hey, the Rockets are red hot. Houston basketball is still alive and well, and if you want to get tickets to any Rockets game, maybe in a Rockets playoff game, go check out our friends over at GameTime. You can get great deals on last-second tickets and even see your seat view before you buy the tickets in the app. All-in prices show you what you pay without hidden fees or expenses. And GameTime has zone deals. You pick the section, GameTime picks the seats for an average savings of 18%. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with GameTime. And they have a new feature, the GameTime Picks feature. This basically filters out all the fluff and shows you the very best deals on the app, so you don't have to spend hours searching through a bunch of tickets. It just shows you the best bang for your buck right there. So whether you're trying to go to an Astros game, baseball is underway. The Astros off to a little bit of a rough start, but I still believe in those boys. I believe in Jose Altuve. Or maybe you want to go to a Rockets game. Make sure you get those tickets with our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download GameTime today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, Mel Kiper in the second round at pick 50. Oh, I actually messed that up just now. It's on me. At pick 59, the Texans select Jaylin Noel, wide receiver from Iowa State. And I think if he falls all the way to the Texans' second-round selection, that would be an absolute steal for this team. This is what Mel had to say on Noel to the Texans. Noel is an extremely reliable slot target with good hands, elusiveness after the catch, and acceleration out of his breaks. This former high school sprinter ran a 4.39-second 40-yard dash at the combine and posted some impressive jumps, 41.5 inches in the vertical and 11'2" in the broad jump. Noel also produced last season with 80 catches for over 1,000 yards, 1,194, and 8 touchdowns. Houston lost Stephon Diggs to the Patriots, and Tank Dell's availability is uncertain for 2025 after his December knee injury. This pick could pay off immediately for the Texans. And the production's there, right? Jaylin Noel in college. I mean, you want a guy to get better each and every year in college, and that's exactly what he did, right? Like, look at 2022 compared to 23, compared to 24 this past year, and then putting up some insane marks. Only 4 drops on 80 catches, over 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, almost 15 yards per catch for Noel. And, I mean, Mel Kiper's not wrong. The wide receiver room definitely needs some help. You have your wide receiver one, your alpha guy in Nico Collins. You have Christian Kirk, who is a nice complementary piece. But behind them, no sure-handed guys, nobody that really would strike fear into opposing defenses, especially with Tank Dell more than likely missing out on the 2025 NFL season. And we don't know how Xavier Hutchinson or John Mechie are going to fare this next year for the Houston Texans. I don't even know if both those guys make the final 53-man roster. So the pick of Jaylin Noel at 59, I think, would be an insane steal for the Texans, because I do think he's one of those guys where there's, a lot of wide receivers in this draft that are, after the first round guys, there's a big gap of who are the next, top 4 or 5 guys. There's a lot of people who are talking Luther Bird and, his teammate Jaydon Higgins, Io Manor from Stanford, Trey Harris from Ole Miss. There's a lot of these guys kind of in that murky round 2, round 3 waters. And I think Jaylin Noel might be one of the diamonds in the rough that come out of that group, where people are kind of like, how Amon-Ra St. Brown, he has the list of 18 wide receivers taken before him. I think that could be Jaylin Noel with, 14 guys before him, and he ends up being one of the best out of the bunch in this year's draft class. Now, before I let y'all out of here, I have some more Texans draft visits that we got to break down here on the channel because, hey, Texans, they're meeting with people, and I always tell you, you have to pay attention to these top 30 visits, because more likely than not, especially in the later rounds, when we're looking at the big board, guys who are left for the Texans to select in round 4, round 5, round 6, round 7, you can more than often than not look at the top 30 visits and say, all right, who's left that the Texans have met with? All right, it more than likely will be this guy. And some of the Texans just met with a tight end out of Miami, Elijah Arroyo. Funny enough, I actually got the chance to cover him in high school. I covered Dallas high school football for a little bit, was really good in Frisco. Really big-bodied tight end who can really get some yards after the catch. More of I would say, a round 3, round 4 draft target. But, hey, with new OC Nick Caserio, a lot of people are predicting the Texans take a tight end at some point in this NFL draft. Maybe it's Arroyo in round 3 or round 4. The Texans met with a pair of defensive linemen as well. First up, Kenneth Grant from the University of Michigan. And this dude is an athletic specimen. And I've talked about, the Texans trading back, and if they do trade back, possibly getting, a player falling, that BPA. They trade back in, late 20s or even early 30s. Kenneth Grant might be somebody who falls to them, and DeMeco says, hey, our biggest strength, let's make it a mega strength for this team with this defensive line. Maybe they add a guy like Grant. Maybe he falls to them in round he falls to 59. I think the Texans would be hard-pressed to not select Kenneth Grant from the University of Michigan. Another really good defensive tackle, a standout from South Carolina, TJ Sanders, has also met or is also set to meet with the Houston Texans on a top 30 visit. Somebody who has been floating around the early round 2, round 3 of this, early draft or late draft process, I would say. TJ Sanders is another skilled defensive tackle, kind of plays that 3 technique, a good pass rusher. I kind of like his fit with the Houston Texans. Reminds me a little bit of kind of like the role that DeMeco Autry plays. I know last year of his deal, so kind of groom him under a DeMeco Autry and kind of play that interior pass rush role. The Texans, I think they're going to go trench heavy in this draft. At least I hope they do. Go O-line and D-line. Sanders, another guy, if he falls to the Texans in round 3, maybe that's a selection that you need to keep your eye out for. Here's some more top 30 draft visits for your Houston Texans so far. We've broken all of them down here on the channel. Another reason why you got to hit that subscribe button. But you see, a lot of these names, we talked about Josh Conerly. He was a top 30 visit for the Houston Texans. Met with them earlier this week. And then the latest ones that we've talked about here on the channel, Nic Scourton, Joshua Farmer, Alfred Collins, Shamar Turner, Quinshad Junkins. I talked about him yesterday. Zion Childress, Alan Walker. A lot of these guys, like I said, you're going to have to keep your eye out when the Texans are on the clock, especially later in the draft, because it's maybe round 4, round 5. You're looking who's left on the board. Maybe it's a Chase Lunt. Maybe it's an Upton Stout. Maybe it's a Olu Oladeju from UCLA, and you'll have a little bit of a better insight on what the Texans might do in this year's draft. Now, that's all I have for you on today's video, folks. If you want some more content, if you want the up-to-date Texans news and rumors, give me a follow on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open, always down to chop it up. Send me your mock drafts on Twitter, and I'll give you my thoughts on whatever your mock drafts are. And if you made it to the end of the video, why are you not subscribed yet? If you're not subscribed, what can I do to change your mind? We give you free Texans content all year long. All you got to do is go down and hit that subscribe button.